All right, guys, we got a lot to talk about and so little time. I'm driving home right now from work and I want to get this out. So I pulled over and I'm going to make this quick video, somewhat quick. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So today, let me get to the actual podcast. Hey, right here. So, Unidentified Alien Podcast just released this episode right here. We got Eric Burleson talking about David Grusch. Now, when I saw this come on before, instantly, I'm listening to that, right away, as soon as I finished my lunch break. That was, during lunch break time. And, what a doozy this one was. There was a lot of stuff that was shared in such a short interview. I think this might have been the first time when Eric has openly discussed David Grusch's role since he got hired on April 1st. So, it's a pretty interesting interview. Let me just share what I said on my Facebook, and we'll just start from there, and I'll add whatever thoughts I feel like adding. So, anyway, I talk about, first of all, Facebook algorithm hate links. So, and I just posted a screenshot of that, and it's true. It seems like, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but whenever you post a picture versus a link to something, you get way more interaction when you post a picture. And if you post a link, and I've seen other people do this too, you go on their Facebook page directly, you have to actually go to their Facebook page, and you look at whatever videos they may have shared, and you might get one like from somebody else. And usually that's because they take somebody in it. And otherwise, no interaction whatsoever. But, unfortunately, even if I share pictures of screenshots or whatever on this topic, zero interaction, because for some crazy reason Christians just don't care about the subject. I don't get it. But anyway, I try to make it I try to put all the most important things up front right away so people see. Maybe just because I say a lot, I don't know. I mean, how does this topic not interest you? I mean, you got Christians, guys, you're really boring. I gotta admit. I mean, I'm a Christian too, obviously. I mean, that's the whole point of this YouTube channel, but coming from this at a Christian perspective, but we're pretty boring. How does this not interest you? Even if you think it's all fake, how does this not interest you even just the tiniest a bit? But anyway, I say this exclusive interview just dropped with Republican Congressman Eric Burleson. I told you guys this was a big deal, hiring David Grusch. Now, I talk about this a lot on my Facebook, just so you know. And of course, no interaction. Anyway, so lots of interesting information, but the highlights insofar as what's coming this year. So there's other interesting things, but this is just talking about what's coming this year. So I say they want to do at least one UAP hearing, but maybe multiple for this year. It depends just on what they want to do. They want to have a roundtable discussion on recovered technologies from UAP live on TV on C-SPAN. Now that right there, that should get everybody talking. I mean, how are news media agencies, whatever, not covering that? I mean, they don't listen obviously to all the podcasts, but come on. Once that information is there, that should be all over the place, like a firestorm. I don't get it. Anyway, they were pushing for a skiff at the end of April with David, but that got pushed back just a little bit. I remember hearing about that last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, that they wanted to do a skiff this month, but apparently that got pushed back a little bit because they want to have him get an even higher clearance for him. But they might have multiple skiffs, either with all the people or separately, like Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon and a few others. And I think that even Arrow wants to be involved in that skiff. Now, I'm kind of skeptical about that because I'm just skeptical about Arrow still, if you know the whole story. If you know, you know, but I kind of wonder if they're kind of like a cover operation and they just want to be in the room so they can hear what's going on and report back. So, I don't know. I'm just skeptical about them. But it sounds like they want to have multiple. Hey, maybe that's why. Maybe they just want to have multiple, one with Arrow in the room and not the others. So then, they don't want to say that publicly, but maybe that's their plan. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, and then, of course, a few other people in the skip. But they might have multiple ones with, just, for timing, scheduling, whatever. They did say in the podcast that, for something that they had, not a skiff, but something else with the Hunter Biden laptop thing, they had 6 hours, I think it was. They want to carve out a lot of time. So they don't have to rush it. They can ask all the questions. And with that situation, I think they had 6 hours or whatever to do that. Anyway, during discussions, David gave about 20 names for witnesses that should go before Congress. I probably should have said some of which or many of which, because I don't know if it's necessary most, but it kind of sounded like that, at least the way I remember it. I would just say this, many of which. So, many of which we have not heard of before. Some of them hostile witnesses that they are willing to drag them into Congress under subpoena. Probably should have worded that differently. But so we've been hearing that for a while now, that one of the guys on the Transparency Task Force apparently has that subpoena power. And it sounds like they're willing to do that. They're willing to use that and get these guys in Congress. So, for the next UAP hearing or one of them or whatever. So I can't wait. That's exciting. Probably a few other things I'm forgetting, but also other comments that were very interesting. We are living in very interesting times. Remember that, or what that Reformed Christian podcast, Haunted Cosmos, always says, the world is more than just stuff. We're going to have very interesting and maybe difficult conversations ahead. I'm just trying to get ahead of it and make you guys aware of what's going on. And you can read the description here. Congressman Eric Burleson rejoins the show with Stephen Diener to discuss the newest member of his transparency team, David Grusch, and how the famous whistleblower is helping open up new doors in their investigations into the UFO phenomenon. Plus, new details on future hearings, skiffs, and getting into the biologics room. That was interesting. And some more stuff. So, I'm going to continue reading some comments that I had. And there's a link right there. So, this might be the first one. I'm just going to see something here. Okay. All right. So there's a ton of questions that I feel, let me start over. There's a ton of questions that I feel like a lot of people aren't thinking about. Yeah, there's a lot of obvious questions. And guys, remember, I do this mostly with voice to text, so there might be errors. But what if it's true that these things are demonic? And it's also true that we have recovered technology from them that, for instance, will make us I meant to say, we can have free energy. A lot of people have claimed that we can do that with these recovered technologies. Or, some people have claimed that they've built, engines for vehicles that can, run off of water or whatever. And they have been mysteriously killed. So, whether you believe in that or not, I don't know. But with the UFO technology, supposedly, we might be able to do something like that with reverse engineering. But what if that's true? What if that's true? I mean, you got to think about how that would topple the world economy, as I say here. But also, if it truly is from the demonic realm, can we use any tech or technologies from them? Would that be wrong? I'm sure that would be a discussion that a lot of Christians would be having. Let's just say that we admit to this stuff and we have technology from it. Let's say it's free energy or some kind of teleportation device or whatever. Just, let your mind go wild. Just whatever. If it's something from them and it's demonic, how would we feel about that? I don't know. I'm sure that there would be Christians on both sides. You could make the argument that, hey, you're just using God's, given physics on this world that he created and the materials that he created. We learned about it from the demonic, yeah, but, it's still his world, his technologies, etc., or his physics and all that stuff. So who knows? That's a discussion we can have. Again, there's a lot of questions like that I feel nobody's asking. Yes, it's based on assumptions because we don't even know how far we have come with reproducing these technologies. Or you could even say, is it demonic? Whatever technologies we may have recovered from this stuff, is it from the demonic? I mean, this could be more than one thing. I've mentioned that before. It could be some other nation that has cracked the code on some of this stuff, and that's what we have recovered. And at the same time, there could also be demonic stuff going on in our skies. So it's just something that we have to be clear about, parse it out properly and stuff like that. Okay, but these conversations and more are ones that we should, or that we would have to have. Should we ask Christians also, should we as Christians, I meant to say, again, voice to text errors, should we as Christians also want disclosure if it means that there is potential for a lot of deception? But also understanding the facts that our government is doing many illegal things and also spending lots of money, as Tim Burchett would talk about a lot. Where's that money going? This is stuff that we need to be accountable for, especially if you're a Christian in government. Do your job to the best of your ability as if God is your boss. And, hey, our country is wasting billions of dollars on UFO technology. That's, all these questions. There's lots of questions, as you can see. Okay. And now, obviously, illegal things, people being killed and stuff like that. Lots of shady stuff. I don't know all the answers to these questions, but I do know that Christians need to get ahead on it and fill in the blank rather than letting the world do it first. This is specifically a spiritual issue, and Christians need to not be asleep at the wheel on this one, as we are, I believe. And it takes someone to check this stuff out. Another question that needs to be discussed is, what about the potential for weapons of mass destruction that rivals anything that has nuclear capability? It has been, I probably meant to say, there has been a lot of people that have come forward to talk about this. Eric didn't make a comment, or did, oh man, I gotta fix this. Eric did make a comment about how we have some very advanced technology that nobody knows about, which of course shouldn't surprise us, but man, wouldn't it be interesting to know everything that they know? Like, I mean, just like crack open the door of secrecy in government in general. Like, I mean, I would love to know what we have out there. Of course, they're not going to reveal all that stuff, but, you know, wouldn't it be interesting? Anyway, but if we have discovered anything like anti-gravity or free energy or whatever, that has massive, incredibly massive, I don't even know what word to put in there, potential, or, I don't know, there's like so many things you can fill in there. If anybody wants to go the extra mile, another podcast just released an episode. Jeremy Corbell from Weaponized. They brought on an active Navy personnel, 23 years experience and counting, from the West Coast, who talks about the military video that they released last week of a UAP. If you guys haven't seen that, I'm sure you have. It's all over the place. They see these all the time. He's got some pretty interesting things to say. And that, of course, is right here, the Weaponized Podcast. I only listen to a little bit, as you can see. So, yeah, you can pause and read all of that if you want. So, here's some other podcasts that I listen to on occasion, in case you were wondering. Lots of variety. I highly recommend the Living Waters podcast right there. That's like one of the best podcasts out there. I never regret listening to it. Some of these obviously are UAP related, and obviously some not. Some specific to Christianity, some not. I gotta talk about the telepathy tapes one of these days. Lots of stuff with that as it relates to the UFO phenomenon. Check out Hunt the Cosmos, one of the best podcasts out there on this topic, or just high strangeness in general, because they come at it with a Christian perspective. And so on. So this last one here is based on a book I used to read in the 90s. It's a really awesome book series. But anyway, in case you're wondering, like, what is that? Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to give kind of an update, though, real quick. I got to start driving home. It does kind of frustrate me, though, that, again, like, I post about this stuff all the time. I did make another post after this. I finally got the attention of one person that I've been wondering about, like, how come this person never talks, comments on any of these posts? I mean, comments on any other post that's Christian related, like spreading the gospel or whatever, just being serious about Christianity, but he never says anything about this. Finally, he said something. I'm not going to put his name out there, so I'm not going to go to the post. But, one thing he did say was kind of frustrating, because I made a post about, like, why are we as Christians so afraid to talk about UAP? Because, I'm getting kind of frustrated. How come we're never, like, I post about this stuff all the time, and nobody wants to have a discussion about it. Like, nobody. I mean, yeah, that one person I tagged, he likes to talk about this stuff, and I make him aware. He's got a lot of friends. He kind of shares a lot of this stuff to make them aware. I think it's important that we be aware. But anyway, this friend of mine said something like, we just got to keep our focus on Jesus. And I'm like, I hope we're not using that as an excuse. Having our focus on Jesus is not an absence of action. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the abortion issue. Like, I know he's pretty big on that, and using that as an opportunity to get the gospel out, as we should, to combat that issue. Well, we're doing something. We're not just having infinite Bible studies. We just got to keep our focus on Jesus. We, as Christians, take action. The Bible talks about that a lot. If there's a pressing issue that's happening, a spiritual issue, definitely, issues of, like, deception and false doctrine and things like that. I'm witnessing to some Mormons right now. He's helping me out with that. I'm not focusing on Jesus because I'm doing that. Like, I don't understand. Like, what our thought process is sometimes when we say stuff like that. And you could tell me right away, he's like, oh, I used to be interested in this topic when I was in my 20s, and, it's not anymore, it's not important. I'm like, well, it is important for the church. I mean, and I went into this whole big thing about that, like, we as Christians are burying our heads in the sand on this issue, I think. I'm not saying that, like, everyone has to get involved, but we should at least be minimum aware of what's going on. That's why I have no shame about it. I'm going to keep on posting about this stuff every once in a while, just some updates. Guys, this stuff is coming. I'm not like some crazy wide-eyed conspiracy guy or crazy on end times, like, oh, we're in the end times, because it's always end times. I get annoyed by that. I mean, it could be, but I don't know. That shouldn't even be the focus necessarily. We should just be focused on the issue at hand. Deception is very much, if this is demonic, why else would they be doing anything with this? I mean, obviously it's to deceive, right? So we need to get ahead of it. And I said to him in one of my comments, like, I'm so sick and tired of Christians sitting on their hand, waiting for an issue to come, and then we do our work. I like the way I worded it. I can't remember how I worded it, though. I'm tempted to go to that post right now. But why do we do our best work or our work on any negative thing, an issue, something that the devil has used to grab a foothold, to gain a foothold on something, and then we take action? Why not for once, just once, what's the word I'm looking for? Man, I just had it. Like, trying to use a different word or trying to think of a different word. Preemptively, yes. Why can't we just once, preemptively get ahead of this thing, before it becomes an issue? We should be taking ground for Christ on every issue, including this, and the world is going to fill in the blank. Like, all this stuff is going on. Man, I've seen so many anti-Christian views on this topic, and it's only going to make that worse. I mean, you have people who are trying to summon demons. Why are we not talking about this? A lot of New Age aspects to this. I was talking about the telepathy tapes earlier. The #1 podcast in the world earlier this year. Yes, even more than Joe Rogan. I said in the world. What do you think that means? I mean, that's a big deal. I listened to most of that whole series, and there's going to be season 2 coming out. It's, becoming a big deal. And we're so afraid to engage this topic. Why? I mean, first we got to look out for our own. The Bible talks about this. We need to protect ourselves, love one another as Christians. There's going to be lots of deception coming into the church. Let's preemptively engage this topic, not just sit on our hands, twiddling our thumbs, whatever. We need to be active. We need to fight, pick up our swords and fight with passion. How come we don't do that anymore as Christians? It just seems like we're all lazy today. Anyway, what do you guys think about all that? I can keep on going. I get worked up on that because, again, like, I'm sharing this stuff all the time. I even try to like make the headline sensational. The first things that I post in the post, the first things I type out sometimes, like, no one's gonna bite nobody. Like, what? Huh? I mean, just on a human level, how is this not interesting? I mean, how is it not? I don't know. I just don't get people. Maybe we're boring. I'm sure Facebook algorithms play a big part of it as well. Maybe everyone just thinks I'm crazy. Oh, Crazy Kurt is going off on UFOs again. Give him a tinfoil hat. Like, that's not it. We forget that the world is more than just stuff. Oh, the other thing. I'll keep going on this for a little bit. I'm telling my friend in the other post about, and this just, I know I'm pretty sure I've said this before in other videos, but like, we elect certain leaders. And I'm so sick of Christians just talking about Donald Trump. You gotta pray for him. He's doing great and wonderful things. Blah 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 blah. Pray for him. Okay, there's more to government than more people that we elect than just Donald Trump. So obviously, a lot of the people in the task force in Congress are Republicans. Most Christians vote Republican. These are our brothers and sisters in the faith. Now, obviously, we haven't sat down with Glenn Grothman or Luna or whoever, Burleson, to, find out the nitty-gritty with their theology and stuff to make sure they truly are in the fold. But, just going off of, their testimony, whatever, that they're Christians, right? So knowing that, how does this not, like take on a whole new avenue? Like, these are our brothers and sisters in Christ. And most of the people in this task force are Christians. Why are we not praying for them? I mean, this has massive potential to deceive people. I mean, that's why we need to ask that question too. Like, is disclosure something that we as Christians should want? I'm kind of back and forth on this, like just on the human level. Like, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the government thinks they know. This just keeps life very interesting. Like, how is nobody else talking about that? It's Christians. But anyway, so there, I mean, okay, that hearing, that blockbuster hearing in 2023 with David Grusch, who was the front chair, the first chair, whatever they call it, the guy who was like basically leading the charge? Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin. I voted for him. So did this friend of mine. He's a Christian. Why are we not talking about this? Is our brother in Christ dealing with this issue head on? I don't know if he's like dealing with it as much right now. I don't think he's in the task force, but he was at the other hearing too, just last year, the second chair. And wasn't it Luna as the first one, or was it Mace? I forget. I think it was Luna. But anyway, these are Christians. And sometimes they even talk openly about this subject as a Christian. They say that this doesn't change my faith. And, they say some pretty good things sometimes. So, why aren't we saying, we should be praying for them? There's so many things we can pray to them, for them about this topic, whether or not you even believe it's true. If you think that deception is on the way, whatever. Like, is the devil using Glenn and others to get this narrative out? Or is it good that this narrative is good? I mean, there's so many things we can pray about. We just need to ask God for wisdom. But we as Christians should get a hold of this. We should be the first on the scene. We should be the first responders, I think I told my friend. Instead of just, letting the world decide what this is all about. We should come first responders, Bibles in hand, ready to talk about this and set the narrative. Not let the world set the narrative and bring in all this new age stuff and, get into summoning demons, telepathy, and all these other things. This is serious. Why are we as Christians so boring and not taking this seriously and not willing to fight? It's just like with the Mormon issue. I'm talking to some Mormons right now. I went to their church. I went to the Lion's Den by myself with 3 Mormons taking me on. And, I said to a couple people in my family, bring them all on. First it's going to just be 2 of them. We're going to meet at McDonald's. And then it ended up, things changed around a bit. And they're like, oh, how about you just come to our church? I'm like, okay, bring it. I wasn't like that. We're still meeting up and stuff. We're going to, it'll get interesting. But right now it's just kind of like a learning stage, getting to know each other kind of a thing. And, hey, tell me what you believe, let me think about it. And then now I know exactly how I want to attack it. But anyway, I've talked about this in the past. Like, even in 2010, I went to the Jehovah's Witness church by myself, of course, because nobody gives a rip. But, no prayer support or anything. That's a whole other story. But, why don't we go to war with these false beliefs? This is what I talked about a lot. We got Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, other false religious groups in our area. So many things. And we can use it to, obviously usher in the gospel. I mean, this UFO topic is a perfect thing to use to get the gospel out. And you can make anything an opportunity to get the gospel out. But this one's a great one because it invites spiritual talk. It always does. I say this all the time, but all these podcasts and people coming forward and stuff, it almost always talks. Someone's going to ask a question, what do you believe about spirituality? That comes up so often in this discussion. But yeah, what was I going to say about that? Maybe I'm just rambling right now. I'm almost home. I started driving again. I'm not just going to stay pulled over forever. I got to get home. Anyway, probably said it anyway like 5 times already. But yeah, the Mormonism thing. Like, I'm not afraid to go to war. I mean, yes, I have a lot of anxiety, a lot. Like, I got, anxiety kind of took over me a little bit, and I didn't, the media didn't go exactly how I thought it would go. Like, I was ready to say some stuff that I didn't say just because of the anxiety, but hey, I was still there, and I'm still willing to do it. Again, I told my family I wouldn't mind if they brought the entire congregation there, all of them against me. Like, have we lost that sense of like bravery or adventure? I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, please understand. But what if we all as Christians got together instead of just being Lone Rangers all the time, but got together and actively fought against these like false religious groups, false ideas? Why don't we get in the gospel out? I complained about that ad nauseum on my Parade the Gospel channel, my Facebook over the years. I don't know. I don't want to vent all the stuff, all the problems I have with Christians, but sometimes you just gotta get it off your chest. It bothers me. Why aren't we talking about this or taking it seriously? And it's like all these important people, all these bigwigs coming forward too. It's not just some guy off the street making these claims about UFOs and stuff. I mean, these are guys we put in charge of our country. Not just Donald Trump, guys. It's more than just Donald Trump. It's more than just the president. It's more than just our governors, too. There's so many people involved, within government. And obviously this discussion on the phenomenon isn't just government related, but, that's where we tend to go. So anyway, I gotta go. I just got home. I'm hungry. Time to eat. So God bless you guys. Tell me what you thought about my rambling, for the 2 people that watched it. But yeah, check out that podcast though. Again, let me just go back to it. That is right here, the UAP Unidentified Alien Podcast, Stephen Diener. Check out that episode. It is fantastic. I love this guy. Yeah, he does a great job. So I'll just leave it at that.